welcome back to my channel. In this second episode, I'm gonna make a short overview what we're trying to do here. Like I said in the first episode, I'm gonna reiterate it again. We're gonna make an open source digital marketing app that will practically help you popularize your content. It can be a video that you have created, or a certain link, any content. You can search for most popular channels and you will be able to market and practically use that hype to popularize your content. That's what we're gonna do. That's the big picture overview. And how we're gonna do that is practically we are gonna go step by step in React JavaScript, and I am gonna show you how we're gonna build that tool. We are gonna learn JavaScript, React together. So I'm doing this, like I said in the first episode, I'm doing this from the perspective of being involved in mobile development, and more precisely iOS development for over 10 years now. I've been developing mobile apps, and I'm gonna start having this view over this very popular platform, which is JavaScript combined with React, and we're gonna create this together. So please take a look on the first episode that we've done. We're gonna switch back now. We're gonna go further to use the equivalent of properties and how we can use that to control the behavior of our components. Like I said, we don't have classes here, we have components. So let's say we're gonna have two or more input components that we want to use in our main app, but we want them to react differently. So what you want to do is create like display behavior or different action handlers that we're gonna send by reference. That's very important. Keep that in mind. Sending by reference. And like I said, you don't define properties here. Like you don't have like a Swift class to define properties, and this concept has to be binded on by the way you develop. So for example, let's say here I'm taking out, you see the property type or the variable type out of these props. These props are the properties that are being sent when I'm using the component. You will see that in the app.js file, when I'm using that component, I'm setting up the name of the property like type. So I'm giving that the value. And when I say the type equals 1, please forgive my magic numbers. We're gonna create data types and data structures along the way. Now for the sake of testing, we're gonna be using some magic numbers to create the purpose of this and to override the behavior and how we can control. Practically, we're gonna say we want that action button or search button display depending on the type of the input component, and the type will be sent in the property type, like you said. So obviously this creates a lot of range of possibility, and it gives you a hint how powerful JavaScript language can really be. The thing is that giving power to the developer is not always the best thing. It's also giving the methodologies, the data structures that he can use and control that. And like I said, the fact that all we have here are simply components, you have the class only in terminology and all that. In iOS you have really binding of what a class can do, what a struct can do, what protocols are, and all that. But we're gonna move forward and see how we can use this JavaScript language and how we can actually create really cool projects. So as giving you a hint, we are controlling the behavior, as you can see here, the way that it displays. The first action button is a dark gray because we have defined the type in CSS, and the lower button, the lower action button, is light gray. And I've directly shown you how you take the type property from the input component and you use it in internal code to see what kind of style you want to apply to that component. So this is how you use the input component multiple times with different behaviors. So what I've shown here is the display differences. I'm displaying a certain style on one input component, but we're also going to display a certain style on a different input component. Going further, we're going to see how we're going to differentiate their behavior, not only their looks, their look and feel, but also their behavior. How? By attributing different action handlers and controlling their behavior from outside. We're gonna create action handlers for the test purposes, for example in app.js file, and when we are using the input components, we're gonna send them different handlers as parameters, and they will be using within their business logic those action handlers that we are gonna send them. So like I said, we are creating here a dummy search handler, which will practically take as an input a string, and simply what we're gonna do is display that string. It's a very basic and dummy handler. And also for the sake of testing, we're gonna create a secondary handler, an action handler, also a dummy handler that simply displays a string that is given. But what we're gonna show you with this is that you control each input component's behavior by assigning them different handlers. So for one input component, we're gonna assign the action handler as parameter. Please take a look at the handler property that we are simply writing here, and we're gonna use it within the component. So within the handler parameter property, how you wanna say it, you have the action handler and you have the search handler. So we are controlling the behavior by binding different methods, different handlers. Moving further on, we'll see how to use higher order components, which is another tactic, but until then we're gonna take out the handler parameter, and then what we're gonna do is for the button is put on the onClick handler, and we are gonna call the handler with the parameter that we want. So one thing that you have to be attentive that the parameter that we're gonna send a handler, the input string, is within the input component. It's in the state. We are taking the input string. If you see a little bit upward, we are taking the input string from this dot state, and we're gonna call the handler with the input string. So whatever we type, we should see printed on. Simply call the handler with the input string, and when you call the handler here, depending on the parameter that was given, you call either the search string or the action string, depending on the input component that you are in. So this is how you control different components, in our case input components that we use within our app, and you control their behavior. Like I said, you can do this easily, as we'll see as we progress with this project. We will use higher order components, but I wanted to give you a hint of the binding power that you use. You simply pass a handler through a parameter, and when you use it, and you simply control the entire component's behavior. So let's run this using npm start, and we'll see what we have accomplished. So we have the two different looking buttons. One which will be the action handler, and the other will be the search handler behavior. Right now they have the same naming. We're gonna take care of that as moving forward. Let's see. Let's type something. We'll type an input string. We're gonna send as a parameter, and simply that parameter should be displayed. As you can see here, it is displayed, and yeah, it's a basic dummy technique, but it's powerful moving forward, and it's just to show off how you can control the components that you use, how you set up different behaviors. So obviously this is not a very nice looking architecture. We're gonna tweak that also in the next following episode. In episode 3, we're gonna use a search widget within where we're gonna use that input component, and also this how we're gonna contain all the search results. But as a take on from this session, you'll see the power how you can control also the looks and feel of a certain component and also the behavior of a certain component, and gives you a hint of the power that JavaScript possesses. Well, that was all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your thoughts into the comments. Also, leave the ideas what you want to see in future videos. Like I said, we're gonna have a stream of episodes, episode 3 and 4, where we're gonna continue the work on our project, but we can also disrupt this and try new tutorials, new things, and all kind of stuff. Just leave your thoughts and your ideas into the comments.